I have this new peace now that I know that like nothing in life happens to me, it happens for me. So
Hmm.
now when everything starts to happen for me, I'm like, great, thank you so much, God. Like, what lesson is this here to teach me? And it's just
Right.
like, it's this such a sense of like peace because like
Yes.
I know that like it's not here to hurt me really. It may hurt me in the season. I may have to pass through some things that are going to be very, very hurtful for me, but I know that
Yeah.
they're all for me. They're not to me because he knows the words that are being said behind my back and conversations that are being had without not in front of me. So if he removes people, I just have to be, whatever it is that he decides to bring upon me, I'm just blessed and honored and grateful for. So
Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video. Hello, 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 Fearless Freedom Tribe. This is Dr. G, and we are back for another episode of the Fearless Freedom with Dr. G podcast. Today, we have all the way from Chicago, Illinois, Jennifer Hernandez. Jennifer, you have got to tell us all about what you are up to and all of the cool things that you are doing.
Well, a couple things. Number one, my book launches tomorrow. So excited. So no one can stop me but me. It launches tomorrow, so I'm very excited. But a little bit about me, I'm a single mother, raised 4 kids. And when I got divorced, my twins were 4 years old, and I had two going into high school. So it was like the most difficult time could possibly be for me. And I'm in 100% commission field. I've been in the mortgage industry for 18 years, so I've been in the ups and the downs of that. We're on
Wow.
a downslope right now, but it's going to come
Yes.
back up.
Yes, it will.
Um, but it's been very challenging. And so right before I got divorced, 3 years before the mortgage industry, that's when the big 2008 crash was coming. And I had a broker shop and we ended up closing. I ended up losing everything. I had rental properties, vacation home, my house. And we ended up losing everything, and that's how I
Oh my
ended
gosh.
up being single. But I didn't take traditional ways of life whatsoever. I was running away at 13. I had some abandonment issues. By the time I was 15, I was straight F sophomore year. My parents were desperately trying to save me from myself, having me locked up in adolescent facilities and different things. I was hanging around in the streets of Chicago with gangs, and they were my family. It's who I gravitated to. I ended up getting kicked out of high school. I went to an alternative program, which I did graduate through there. Off and on, from 17 to 19, I was homeless. And at 19, I got pregnant with my daughter, and she was my reason to change. So I started a dream, and, I became pretty successful. I was making over 6 figures a year by the time I was 26. So,
That's
uh,
awesome.
yeah, I worked really hard and just don't stop.
There you go. Wow, I love that you say that your girl was the thing that changed you, because having a child can change you one way or another, right? I mean, it doesn't always end up being positive. So
Oh,
I'm
for sure.
glad that she rescued you from yourself, so to speak. Wow. So that had to be very difficult to be still a teen and a mom and homeless, right? Because you said during that time you were homeless. How did you navigate that? And how did you overcome the fear of that?
Well, so that's the problem with being homeless. Like we all look and sometimes judge, right? And we're like, well, why don't you just get a job, right? I've thought that myself before I became homeless.
I
The
see.
problem with that is if you don't know where you're going to lay your head from day to day, you can't function. Like I was worried about leaving my possessions what if I go to work and then they take everything I have and I don't have anything left? Like it's very survival mode, and you're not dreaming, which is why you stay stuck in that mode for so long, because when you're in survival mode, it's just day to day. Where am I going to sleep? Where am I going to get my money from? How am I going to care for myself? But the minute you can start to dream and really create and manifest the life that you desire versus the one you're living in, things can quickly shift. And so my encouragement to people, because I've been there, is that try to dream from that state, because I know it's hard. It was definitely one of the most difficult things for sure. But the life I was living was gonna end me up dead or in jail. And so when my daughter came, she was just the blessing that I needed to change what I was doing and no longer live that life. So that's
So
how
how did was the first step the vocational school, or did that come before the homelessness?
no, I graduated through that program and then was homeless.
I see. Okay. I'm just trying to understand how do you, because the first step is the mindset, which is what you just pointed out. But then I'm wondering, how did you get to the next step? How did you get from,
So for me, the first step was not the mindset. I didn't know
oh, it's
anything about
not.
that.
Okay.
We didn't have computers. We didn't have the cell phones. We didn't have the podcasts. We didn't have any of the stuff back then, right? Because this was
Gotcha.
1997. So
Okay.
we didn't have any of that. So I didn't have any mindset. What I had was a child that
Okay.
I knew I was responsible for. And I didn't want to end up going through the same things that I went through. So I wanted more for her. And I had a broken home. My parents got divorced when I was very young. So like I wanted to change that for her, and I wanted to make that relationship work as much as I could. So like I could have that family unit. So I think that was like my first thing, is to have that dream for myself, was to have that
Okay.
family unit. So that's what I held on to. And then what I noticed was I was living in a two-bedroom apartment, and I had an uncle who had things and took vacations and stuff for his family, and had, he had rental property, and I'm like, that's what I want. Like, and he had a really nice house. I'm like, those are the things that I want, that I desire. And that's when I started to see the life that I want for myself. And I actually knew, I told my daughter's father, I remember this so clearly, one day living in the two-bedroom apartment. And he also had a child who was 6 months older than my daughter. And we ended up getting
Okay.
custody of. So I actually had two kids because I was taking care of my stepson as well.
Okay.
So I was sitting there in this two-bedroom apartment. I'm like, I think I want a lot more than you in life. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I feel like you're comfortable in this apartment. Like this is just fine for you. You can live like this your whole life. That's the way I felt. I
I
said, for
see.
me, I want like all these things. And I started to realize that I wanted a lot then. And then within a couple of years, like I wanted a $500,000 house. Well, I wanted a big house with an in-ground pool, had it, had three rental properties, a vacation home. And I took the year that I started making really good money, I ended up taking like three vacations with my family that year. It was just like
Nice.
within 3 years, I had it all, everything that I had seen in that two-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
So that, even then I didn't realize what I had done until I was losing everything from the mortgage industry, and I got
Hmm.
super depressed. And by this time, I had already given birth to my twins 2 years earlier in 2006. And the 2008, everything started to crumble.
Right.
And so I got super depressed. And my daughter actually she'd been acting and modeling since she was 7. And someone came to drop off a film. And I'm like, if you ever run out of stories, like I have incredible stories, I would love to share. They're like, you can impact the world through film. You should write your story. So I ended up starting to write my story. And this was while I was super depressed. And it made me reflect on everything I had been through in life, to know that this was not the end of my story. And it's honestly what saved me from myself during that period. And it also made me realize that I was sacrificing myself for what I didn't have, for the loss of me not having a family. Like everything wasn't great in my relationship. And I was sacrificing myself for my children, just as a lot of parents do, because we
Yeah,
think that's what the right thing is. And it's actually not, because we need to do and be a display of what we want them to do, you
exactly.
know? So yeah, so it was a beautiful journey of just like writing my story, is really what made me realize that I was manifesting things, and that was not going to be the end. And then I started to see the future. And then I started to do the work after I had 4 kids and had already had some level of success. So I definitely didn't do it the right way.
Well, I mean, there's a lot there though, because you mentioned something quite important. You said that this all happened outside of the social media and the instant information era, right? Because you
Right.
you were able to, even though you didn't have podcasts, even though you did not have, you couldn't like listen to a book on tape or something, you still had something within you that said visualization is powerful because you visualized yourself. Like you visualized the life that you wanted, and that really is the first step because once you see it, then you can obviously become it, right? Like whether you see it in your mind or you see it through people around you or but you have to see it because if you,
Mhm.
you don't see it, you're not going to think it's possible. And so you saw beyond what you currently had around you, which is very powerful. And then obviously, like you said, you have to do the work behind it because it doesn't just happen magically, right? And so
Yeah.
that's pretty incredible. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't have that. So just FYI, I'm sure you probably already know this, but like that is not like that intrinsic drive, that ability to visualize, that's not common.
That's why I named my book what I named it. Actually it's up here in the corner. So no one can stop me but me. I mean, the truth is that we are the ones that block our blessings. We are the ones that block what we want in life. And if we can just get out of our own way and remove our limiting decisions and our blockers that we have set up from our trauma, from our childhood trauma, paying attention to our triggers, and trying to go within and heal before we just look for, drugs or sex or something to escape your reality, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
It's
it's very
hard.
interesting that the way that I mean I know you didn't really like specifically say this, but like you did have some fear in that apartment. But the fear wasn't that where was the next meal coming from? The fear wasn't like, um, you know, if I go to work, my possessions are going to be, claimed by somebody else. The fear was I don't want to be in this place 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I don't want to be, I'm fearful because you even said it. You said that your partner seemed satisfied. Like he seemed like he was good. He was like, oh, this is good. I made it. But you're like looking like, no, this is not it. Like I'm afraid of mediocrity or whatever you call it. I'm afraid
Yeah.
of this, like settling for this. Like I want more. So, and then you face that fear by taking action. Like you're like, okay, close my eyes, I see it. Okay, I'm whatever I need to do to get there, and I'm gonna do that thing. So that's pretty incredible. And
Yeah.
that's something that like I'm sure your kids probably have noticed and seen.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. And it is so powerful just to see where you want to go, right? Because that's like somebody made this great analogy once. Like if we're watching a basketball or a football game, if they're not shooting for a goal or trying to make a touchdown, they're basically just running around in circles and nobody's going to watch that, right?
Right,
But it's like if
right.
we don't have any goal or vision or want for ourselves, we're literally like bobbleheads just running around in circles, chasing nothing, going nowhere. And then we wonder why we're so upset and we're so angry. It's because we literally are insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and waiting for a different result.
Yeah.
There can't be a different result when you don't know where you want to go. That is, that's so.
That is a great way to put it. That's the thinking about it like a game because everybody can relate to that. And that's so real. That's so true. And we really do need to have like benchmarks and things that we are shooting for. They don't have to be like grandiose. They could even just be, where do I see myself a year from now?
Yeah. I
Maybe
mean,
read
they
more
could be
books,
super
maybe
small.
like
Like
exercise. I don't
everybody,
know. It could be anything, but you have to have some kind of benchmark, right? That you're shooting for.
you have to have something. It doesn't have to be, everybody's wants are going to be different, right? But as long as you have whatever yours are for that moment, and it doesn't have to stay there. It could just be and like a goal or a vision to take one vacation or something, something. You have to shoot for something. But
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's great advice. Absolutely. And so now, so tell us about, so you told us how you got inspired. So you saw your uncle and you're like, oh, there may be something to this, right? This is what I would like to see if I can get involved in. And then how did you end up getting involved in real estate after that?
So I actually started off in the car business and was doing car financing, but I worked my way up from a switchboard operator to become a finance manager. And then I was working 60 plus hours. It was very male dominated industry, very tough for women. Um, and they fired me because I don't quit at anything, but they fired me. And it was like the greatest blessing in the world because they weren't paying me what they should have been. And then I started doing mortgages, which is basically mortgaging a house versus a car. It's a lot more expensive. So I was so good at it. It was like second nature. And then the reason why I was so good at it is I figured out years later is that I have a heart for helping others and I want to help people. So like I'm fixing people's credit, helping them achieve home ownership. A lot of times like I was in 2021, I was number one in the state of Illinois for FHA lending, which is low to moderate income area lending, people with credit challenge. Like I was a single mom, like I had to rebuild myself over and over again. So it's my life experiences that help me craft solutions for clients who are being denied elsewhere that
Got
need
it.
me an expert in my market. So it's because it's an alignment with who I am as a person and the impact I want to make is I want to help change people's lives. So I'm changing your family's life if I'm helping you get into a home or be
Absolutely. Yeah,
the first in your whole family to ever own, or it's or fixing your credit. And even if you didn't buy the house, but I helped guide you on how to repair that credit and start building that. I'm helping in every way I can. So it's just in total alignment with who I am. And when you're doing that, it doesn't feel like work. It kind of feels just like your purpose. So,
and so did you branch out on your own immediately or how, or are as a mortgage broker, are you like independent already? Is that how it works? I'm not quite sure how it
oh,
actually works.
so in 2005, when I got in the industry, I just went to work for somebody
I
and they
see.
were doing leads. So the business was just coming in. I didn't have to like go out and build it. The phone just rang. And then
Got it.
I got, my clients kept referring me other clients because I was doing really tough deals that nobody else could get done. So, I just became known. And then when the crash came, ended up taking a year off because every mortgage company kept going out of business. So
Right.
when I got back in the business in 2011, after losing everything, getting divorced, I had to start over. And I was starting over with nothing. And I had to go in and I had to start working with agents and, building up and asking people for business and, really just grind. And
Yes.
I was working 5 days a week, building back up my mortgage business because I'm 100% commission. And I was waitressing on the weekends for cash because I was living payday loan to payday loan. I
Mm,
mean, thousands of dollars negative in the bank. And was a really hard time for me to support my family at that time. So I kept working. So that was in 2011. I got back in the business,
okay.
started building. By 2018, I got my own branch again because I'm like, okay, everything is getting better. I'm going to get my own branch and I'm going to do it the right way. And because last time I got my own branch, it was right before the crash. So it was like nothing I could have done really.
Right. Right.
And then in 2021, my branch was number one and two in the state of Illinois for FHA lending, and we closed over 180 million in production, and I made over
Awesome.
7 years that year. So it was so beautiful.
That is awesome. That's a great story. And so now you're still with the same
I'm still with the
branch?
same company. Yep.
Okay. All right,
Our
cool.
branch has changed a little bit. Lots of things have happened, but that's for the next book.
Sure, 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 sure.
I did launch my first motivational speaking conference. I called it My Do-Over in Chicago. And then
Nice.
I wrote a book and finished the book in 2022 at the same time. And it is actually available tomorrow. It's already been pre-selling on Amazon. So incredible. And I'm just happy to share my story. I just want to be able to impact people who are stuck like I was.
No, that's great. That's great. It's very, very encouraging. And I know that there are a lot of women who are listening right now who could potentially be in similar situations. We're trying to figure out how to start over, you know? Starting over is never, ever easy, no matter what level you are or your background. It's never easy,
No.
but it's always worth it because when you get to the next pinnacle, it's actually higher than the first. So it always works. It always works out well.
Yeah, they
So
don't lie when they say new levels, new devils. Ladies,
that's
I'm telling
right.
you, there is the levels become harder and harder.
Yes.
And if anybody looks at my social media, they'll think like, oh my gosh, over the last couple of years, I've lived this great life. It was the most painful 3 years of my entire existence. Um, and that's what I'll tell you. And it's because I've been healing, learning about my childhood trauma, having to rebuild and fix my relationships with my children, because when you're 20 and you become a mom and you
Yeah.
have your own trauma and you were raised a certain way that you don't know, is it
Should pass
probably the
on.
best
Yeah.
way?
Yeah.
You roll it over, so
Yeah.
now I have to tell them, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, that was all wrong. You have to forgive me, allow me, welcome me back in as this new person, which is not easy.
No, it isn't.
But the good thing is that our kids in this day are requiring a higher level of consciousness. So they want you to do your work, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
They and the reason why is because then we can help them heal before they become parents and do the same thing that we did to them,
Yeah.
because we know
Stop the
not what
cycle.
we do, right? So
Yeah.
it's time to break the cycles, and it starts with us and ownership and accountability and being 100% responsible for everything that we call into our life.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, that's so true. And so you mentioned a couple things. So the book, which is coming out tomorrow, which when we say tomorrow, by the time this airs, it would already be out. Because I'm not sure when it's gonna air, to
Yeah.
be honest.
So January 16th it launches, but you can get it on Amazon at any time. So.
Perfect, perfect. And then you just had the conference. Do you have something else coming up this year, or are you focusing on the book and promoting the book this year,
So I'm starting to
2024?
build my network. So there'll be a network coming soon. I do plan on being on stages, and I'm really, honing in on the message that I want to share. And also I have a documentary in the works, so that as well.
Oh, fantastic. Great. Busy.
Yeah.
Awesome, 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 awesome. All right, well, we are at that part of the show where we do our fill in the blanks. Are you ready for that?
I
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. All right, so the first one is if I am fearless, I will.
Never allow any limitations that I do not set upon my I will never allow any limitations to stop me. None. Because I can't put them on myself. I just don't have them. So
Awesome. The next one is to me, fearless freedom means.
to me, fearless freedom means that I'm not afraid of anything, that I am grateful and 100% responsible for all that comes into my life and all that goes out. And I am, it's so interesting because I have this new peace now that I know that like nothing in life happens to me, it happens for me. So
Hmm.
now when everything starts to happen for me, I'm like, great, thank you so much, God. Like, what lesson is this here to teach me? And it's just
Right.
like, it's this such a sense of like peace, because like
Yes.
I know that like it's not here to hurt me really. It may hurt me in the season. I may have to pass through some things that are going to be very, very hurtful for me, but I know that
Yeah.
they're all for me. They're not to me, because he knows the words that are being said behind my back, and conversations that are being had without not in front of me. So if he removes people, I just have to be, whatever it is that he decides to bring upon me, I'm just blessed and honored and grateful for. So that's what it is to me, fearless
No,
freedom.
that's great. And then the last one is my battle cry is.
My battle cry is, I don't know. That's a good one. My battle cry is forgiving. Forgive quickly. Even though they may not deserve your forgiveness, you deserve to forgive them, because you don't have to be a prisoner to whatever they did. So
Love it. Love it. Yeah, and plus also carrying grudges is like energy sapping, you know? It's like not really
that's like a
that
backpack.
great for it. It doesn't help you to propel forward. It really doesn't. It just is kind
No,
of
it
like
does.
a drain.
Super drain.
Yeah, big time.
But it's hard, sometimes we are wrong and definitely a challenge that a lot
Oh
of us
yeah,
have.
it's a challenge, but like the sooner, yes. I mean, it is human nature to like have that feeling come on you after you've been wronged. Absolutely. But to carry it for a prolonged period of time does not benefit you, is what I'm
Yep.
saying. So like the sooner that you can like acknowledge the feeling and then like put it aside so it doesn't drain you, the better.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, we did not have you say how people can get in contact with you. So do you mind
Yeah,
telling everybody
absolutely.
how they can do that?
You can follow me at I am Jen Hernandez on Instagram. It's I am JENN Hernandez. You can also go to my website and register for upcoming events. It is iamjenhernandez.com, spelled the same way, JENN Hernandez. And you can also, if you are looking for a mortgage, if you've been denied anywhere, if you're a real estate agent that has their deals denied, please go to my website. It's approvedbyjen.com. Apply with me and my team, and I can guarantee you we'll be able to craft a solution. And even if it's not right away, you will be able to be a homeownership at some point. So
Awesome. Great.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.